shouldn't have answered that call. It came at exactly 2:13 a.m. No caller ID, just silence. Then someone started breathing. Who I am, where I was, why any of this matters. My name doesn't matter. What matters is that I was alone. I had moved into the apartment on Ryder Street in the middle of November, a ground floor unit in a building that was maybe 40 years old, maybe older. The kind of place where the hallways always smell faintly of something cooked hours ago, where the radiator clicks at 3 in the morning, like a knuckle being popped, slow and deliberate. I took it because it was cheap. I took it because after the divorce, I needed cheap. I wasn't thinking about the neighborhood, or the fact that the front door lock was a little loose, or that the previous tenant had apparently left in a hurry. Some of her mail still came. A woman named Dana. I never forwarded it. I don't know why. I worked from home, tech support, remote. My entire life had compressed itself into about 600 square feet. The desk, the couch, the kitchen counter where I ate standing up. I wasn't unhappy exactly. I was numb. There's a difference, even if from the outside it looks the same. I had been there 3 weeks when the call started. Something is off, just not enough to act on. The first one came on a Tuesday. I remember because I had just finished a long shift and had finally sat down with something to eat. My phone buzzed on the coffee table. No caller ID. Not unknown, not private number. Just completely blank. Like the phone wasn't sure what to do with it. I answered out of pure reflex. Nothing. No static, no breathing, no ambient sound. Just that particular quality of silence that means someone is on the other end, but not speaking. You know that silence. It's different from a dead line. A dead line has a flatness to it. This had texture. I said hello twice, hung up. I told myself it was a misdial. I ate my food. I went to bed. It happened again Thursday. Same time. I noticed that only later. I didn't answer at that time. It rang 7 times and stopped. 7. I counted without meaning to. By the following week, there had been 4 more calls, always between 2 and 3 in the morning. Always the same absence of any caller information. I started keeping my phone face down at night, except on the nights I was already awake. I am a light sleeper, always have been, worse since the divorce. I'd be lying there in the dark, and the phone would vibrate against the mattress, and even face down I could see the faint pulse of the screen through the fabric. I started putting it across the room on the desk. That helped less than I expected. There was a night, the 8th or 9th call by then, when I picked up without thinking, the way you sometimes answer mid-dream. And this time, there was breathing. Slow, even, not labored, not dramatic, just the careful, measured breathing of someone who is very awake and very still. It lasted maybe 4 seconds before the line went dead. I sat up in the dark and stared at the wall for a long time after that. I changed my number the following Monday. I didn't tell anyone what had happened. It seemed too small to explain. A few weird calls. Everyone gets them. I felt slightly ridiculous even considering it. Isolated incidents become a pattern. 2 weeks after changing the number, nothing happened. I slept better. I started to convince myself the whole thing had been random, a spoofed number, some automated system glitching in the middle of the night. Then I noticed the window. My apartment was ground floor, facing a narrow alley on one side and the street on the other. The bedroom window faced the alley. There was a street lamp at the far end that threw pale orange light against the brick wall of the building opposite. I'd never thought much about it. On a Wednesday in early December, I woke at 2:15. I looked at the clock immediately, habit now, and the room felt wrong. Not wrong like a sound or a smell, wrong like a change in pressure, like the air had been disturbed and was still settling. I lay there. The radiator was quiet. The building was quiet. Then I looked at the window, and the shadow was wrong. The fire escape shadow was there, the same diagonal line of the railing across the brick. But there was something else in the shadow, a shape that should not have been there, a vertical form, roughly the width and height of a person standing close to the glass. I didn't move. For 20 seconds, I counted slowly in my head. I lay completely still and watched the shape in the shadow. It didn't move either. Then the light from the street lamp flickered once, the shadow shifted, and it was gone. Just the fire escape again. Just the railing. I got up and checked the window. Locked. The alley was empty. Nothing. I went back to bed and did not sleep again that night. 2 days later, I found a handprint on the outside of the glass. A handprint. On the outside. Ground floor. Someone had been standing in the alley, close enough to press their hand flat against my window. The print was large, larger than mine. The fingers were slightly spread, as if the person had been leaning in, trying to see through the gap in the curtain. I photographed it. I called the building super. He came, looked at it, said it could have been from a maintenance worker cutting through the alley. He wiped it away with a cloth, just like that, and left. I stood there staring at the clean glass and felt something shift inside me. Not fear, not yet. Something more like clarity. Someone knew where I slept. That night, I pushed my dresser in front of the bedroom door. Not the window. I don't know why not the window. I just didn't want to admit that the window was where the problem was. The moment everything crossed over. December 14th. I remember the date exactly because it was the anniversary of the day my father died, 4 years earlier. I always had trouble sleeping on that date. I had stayed up late, a glass of whiskey, the television on low, nothing in particular. I fell asleep on the couch sometime past midnight. The TV was still going, some documentary about ocean geography, the kind of narration that becomes white noise. I woke up at 2:13. I knew it before I looked. Something pulled me out of sleep the way a loud sound does, sudden and total. My eyes opened and I was completely awake in an instant. The television was off. I had not turned off the television. I lay on the couch and stared at the blank screen, at my own reflection in the dark glass. The room was lit only by the orange glow coming around the edge of the curtains from the street outside. Everything was still. Then I heard the sound from the kitchen. It was the sound of a drawer being opened, slowly. The soft wooden groan of the drawer sliding out, and then the faint metallic shift of whatever was inside moving as it reached full extension. I did not breathe. The kitchen was 8 feet away. There was no door between the living room and the kitchen. I was lying with my back to it. The drawer slid shut. Then silence. I don't know how long I lay there. My mind was doing the thing minds do in those moments, running through every rational explanation simultaneously, trying to construct a version of events that made the sound something other than what it was. The building settling, a mouse, a dream. But I was awake. I was completely, unmistakably awake. And someone had opened the kitchen drawer and closed it again 8 feet behind me in the dark. I turned over, slowly. The kitchen was empty. I turned on every light in the apartment. I checked every room, every closet. The front door was locked. The bedroom window was locked. Nothing was disturbed. Nothing was missing as far as I could tell, except the kitchen drawer was open, an inch, maybe 2. The one where I kept the takeout menus, some rubber bands, a flashlight. The flashlight was on top, and it was facing a different direction than I left things. Someone had gone through that drawer. I sat on the kitchen floor with my back against the counter and called the police. They came. 2 officers, young, professional, polite. They walked through the apartment. They found no sign of entry, no broken lock, no tampered window, nothing. One of them told me, gently, that ground floor apartments sometimes made sounds that traveled from neighboring units. "Has anything been stolen?" he asked. "No," I said. "Any other incidents recently?" I told him about the calls, about the handprint. He wrote it down. "Could be unrelated," he said. "Could be someone casing the building. We can increase patrols in the area." They left. I thanked them. I sat in the lit apartment until dawn, not sleeping, not moving much, just existing in the specific exhaustion that comes from sustained fear. Quiet. But not the right kind of quiet. For the next 10 days, nothing happened. I had a new lock installed on the front door, a deadbolt, heavy, the kind that requires a key from both sides. I put a secondary latch on the bedroom window. I kept the kitchen drawer empty and closed, and I checked it every morning. I slept better. Not well, but better. I began to think, carefully, tentatively, that maybe it was over. I went to see Marcus, a friend I'd known since university, and had dinner at his place across town. I drank wine. I laughed at something for the first time in what felt like weeks. On the subway home, I felt almost normal. When I got back to the apartment, I noticed something before I even opened the door. The mat outside my front door had been moved, just slightly, turned a few degrees, no longer squared with the door frame. I always kept it squared. It was a small thing, a compulsive thing. I told myself it could have been anything. I went inside. Everything was in order. I went to bed at 11 and was asleep by 11:30. That was the best night's sleep I'd had in weeks. When I woke at 7, there was a piece of paper that had been slid under my front door. It was a page torn from a notebook, lined, plain handwriting, printed not cursive, in black pen. 4 words. "I know you moved." I sat on the floor of my entryway and read it 11 times. I counted. I am aware that's an odd thing to know. My brain was trying to extract some alternative meaning that wasn't there.
The note wasn't threatening exactly. It was something else. It was acknowledgement. It was someone telling me that they had noticed the changes I had made, the locks, the window latch, and that none of it mattered. That they had been close enough to observe all of it, and close enough to push a piece of paper under my door in the middle of the night, and I had slept through every second of it. The night I understood what this was. I went to the police station in person that morning. I brought the note in a Ziploc bag. I spoke to a detective this time, a woman named Carver. She was calm and thorough, and she listened to the full sequence without interrupting. She told me it was a stalking situation. She used the word clearly and without softening it, which I appreciated. "Do you have anywhere you can go?" she asked. "I have a friend, Marcus. I could stay there. I'd recommend it, at minimum for a few days while we look into this. Do you think they'll come back?" She paused just slightly before answering. "I think whoever this is has been watching your routine for a while. They're comfortable. That's not nothing." I packed a bag that afternoon. Clothes, laptop, documents. I called a cab. I didn't want to walk to the subway in the dark. While I waited, I sat in the apartment with my coat on and my bag at my feet, and I stared at the front door. The cab arrived. I confirmed it on the app. I put on my bag and reached for the door handle. My phone rang. No caller ID. I should have ignored it. I know I should have ignored it. But there is something about that particular call, the blank ID, the late hour, the context of everything, that made ignoring it feel like losing something, like surrendering some last piece of ground. I answered. This time there was a voice. It was quiet, level, almost conversational, and it said, "Don't go to Marcus's." That was all. Then the line was dead. I stood in the entryway, bag on my shoulder, coat on, hand on the door handle, and I could not move. This person knew Marcus's name. They knew, right now, in this moment, that I was standing here with a bag about to leave. They were close enough to know that. I looked at the door. I looked at the peephole, the small fisheye circle of distorted light showing the empty corridor. I put my eye to it. The corridor was empty. I waited. 10 seconds. 20. Then a shadow moved across the peephole from outside. Not a flicker, not the building shifting. A shadow, cast by a body, passing slowly across the other side of my door, moving past and then stopping. I stepped back from the door. My heel caught the edge of my bag and I nearly went down. I caught the wall. My breathing was louder than I wanted it to be. Nothing happened. No knock, no sound, no note sliding under. Just the shadow on the other side of the peephole, still, and the knowledge that whoever it was could see the shadow of my feet under the door just as clearly as I could see theirs. We stayed like that. Then the shadow moved again and receded and was gone. I called 911. I whispered, I couldn't make myself speak at full volume, and told them someone was outside my door. They came in 8 minutes. They found no one, but the service stairwell latch at the end of the corridor was damaged. Someone could have come through and gone back quickly. They waited while I gathered my things. They walked me out. I got into the cab, and I did not look back at the building. I did not go to Marcus's. No answers, no closure, just what's left. I stayed in a hotel for 9 days. I paid cash. I didn't tell anyone where I was except Detective Carver, and even her I told only the city, not the specific hotel. The fingerprints from the note came back inconclusive. The corridor camera covered the elevator, not my end of the hallway. The service stairwell had no camera at all. Carver called me after 2 weeks. The calls had been routed through a VoIP service based overseas, effectively untraceable. The handprint had yielded no match in the database. One partial print from the note matched no record on file. She said they would keep the case open. She said that in most cases like this, the person eventually makes a mistake. Most cases, I said. Most, she confirmed. I moved. Not just out of the apartment, out of the city. I'm not going to say where. Second floor unit, different phone, different number. My address is nowhere in any paperwork connected to my employer. It has been 7 months. 2 weeks ago, my new number received a call at 2:13 in the morning. No caller ID. I did not answer it. I lay in the dark and I watched the phone pulse with light until it stopped. 7 rings. I counted without meaning to, the same as always. Then it was quiet, and the dark was just the dark, and I told myself it was nothing. I am still telling myself that. I'm not sure how much longer I'll be able to believe it. But I never look out the window anymore. Not at night. Not since I noticed, 3 days after I moved in, that the street lamp outside my new bedroom window casts a shadow against the wall across the alley. And that sometimes, when I wake up at 2 a.m. and the room is still, and I make the mistake of looking, the shadow has a shape I can't explain. I don't look anymore. I just keep the curtains closed, and I count the rings, and I wait for morning. That's all I've got left to do. If you enjoyed this story, subscribe to Untold Mystery TV. More true scary stories are coming. And remember, some mysteries should never be solved.